Alright, welcome back, folks, to another Engineer.tf video. We are back after a very long time without a video. I hope you all had a wonderful Valentine's Day with your Valentines, or by yourself playing video games. So here we are with another guide on, this time on Ram Jam. This is a map that's been played on and off for several seasons in UGC and has generally been hasn't really been received very well by the general audience, but the UGC overlords have spoken, and it's being played in this rotation. So we're going to teach you guys how to play it with the knowledge that we have gained from our minimal playtime on it. So this time, I am joined by Paals. He's the iconic player from Chill Penguins, legendary heavy weapons guy, and soon to be banned. How are you today, Paals?
I'm pretty good. I'm not ready to be banned quite yet. That's rumors of my being banned are grossly exaggerated, but I'm ready to talk about Ram Jam for sure. So I'm glad to be here.
All right. So first off, as it's pretty clear, this is a King of the Hill map. So whoever holds the point for 3 minutes wins. That's pretty much it. First things first, we're gonna just talk about callouts here. It's a pretty straightforward map as far as callouts go.
Yeah, symmetrical, so there's nothing crazy.
Yeah, so how about you go ahead and take it away, Pals?
Well, since this map hasn't been played for very long, I feel like a lot of teams have a lot of different callouts for a lot of stuff, because a lot of the stuff in this map is really very similar to itself. So like, bats, some teams might call this bats, or some teams might call that bats over there to the left. Or they could even call like over there bats, but that's not what my team does. My team calls this roof, they call that oil can, and they call that bats. So that's the three different things. Those three calls are probably the three most important because those are the three places snipers play most often on this map, in my experience.
Yeah, there are a few, well there are two locations whose calls have been pretty consistent throughout the season playing, that this map has been played.
Yes.
This is the red jam, and over there is the blue jam. These are pretty, I don't know, these are kind of the rooms that have a lot of action. You see a lot of the action in the jams. Yeah, that's probably why they're so important.
Likes to come in here because there's a nice medium health pack, and it's pretty easy from here to get behind relatively scot-free with this shutter or towards the can of the same side, so it gets a lot of action usually between flank players, and even like a sniper can come in here and aggressively peek.
Yeah, it's also pretty safe. I think you kind of low-key pointed out when you mentioned that it was safe for the sniper, and that a lot of important combo members can play in there sometimes, usually because of the safety of sniper sightlines. You're kind of blocked by this wall here, and you don't really have to risk crossing sniper sightlines when you're holding in here. So really the only thing you'd have to worry about is a team wrapping you, like a flank wrapping you or something.
Yes,
but if you've got a strong hold on the point, then that really shouldn't be an issue.
But yeah, back to more calling things. The point is obviously point, and then my team calls these things houses. So if there was like a soldier, for example, on top of one of these houses, you can stand on top of them. It's like they'd be on blue house or on red house or under blue house or under red house, or just on the small pill here, because there's a nice little small pill if you need it. And then the rest leading up to the point callouts, people usually call this stairs, or you can just call it whichever direction you are, depending on what color you are. So if you're on blue, this would be right side point. And then this is road, or left side point, next to the fence. This is the fence. And then this is the belovedly called Lego, because it looks like a nice little three-piece Lego thing, which then goes up to bats, and that's pretty much the whole map. All the other, I mean, there is a drop down on this map. It's not really that critical. It's right here. You can get to it only from spawn, so you don't really gonna call it out that much, but it's there.
Also, I think the biggest one we forgot was lobby.
Oh, lobby, yeah, behind the shutter. Lobby is like sort of the all-encompassing big area that goes either to bats or to the left side. Whatever, I already forgot what I called this on the left side.
It's all good.
The maps, everything's confusing. That's the big thing. So yeah, lobby. This is where a lot of the times teams will group up before they push out to point and something like that, or before they decide where to go, where they'll back out from if they're losing the point, because you can come to the shutter pretty easily.
All right, so I guess that's call outs.
Should do rollout, because rollout I see a lot of people doing wrong on this map.
Absolutely, yes. That's usually the next course of action with these reviews. So let's go ahead and
so
do
like
the
spawn location for this map is in this little room here, on this ground here, and so everybody's immediate inclination is to go to the closest door, which is to the left, and that is incorrect. Going to the left door, I would say only if you're gonna be an engineer and putting down a teleporter there is like, that's the only person you want to go that way. Everybody else should go up and to the right. Once you're here, your team decides two things, which way to go, which is to go right to go towards your own can, or left to go main through shutter and then behind the house. Most of the time, teams are going to want to go through the shutter, and then through the other shutter, and then they can choose from here which side they can fight on. They can fight right, or they can fight left. If your team does choose to roll out to the right side, you're like, it's a much safer mid for almost everybody, but you have to worry about their sniper rolling out can and then single-handedly shutting down your entire mid. So generally speaking, this is like a not very frequent rollout. Everybody pretty much rolls out shutter from after going left side, right side through spawn.
what do you think is usually like the prime sniper sightline that people need to watch out for?
The can one, like this is sniper. It's so easy to just be sitting back here hard scoped. And then as soon as like you can see like somebody's capping the point, because the point zone is actually pretty big on this map. So once you see that somebody's on the point, you can just peek up with just your head with a full charge shot, and you can full charge headshot anybody that's standing on point or on the other can or in the red opposing jam. So this is like definitely the scariest sightline for me. Close second is on the left side here. There's a couple of really weird ones you can get by standing like on the Legos here. This lets you see like pretty far down into the road and stuff. And not to be outdone, there's a couple of other ones like this that can see onto point. The sniper can even jump on top of that little silo if they got good hops. I'm pretty sure they can still hop on this, or regardless, they can I'm pretty sure they can hop on this one. There's a lot of really funny sightlines on this map. Let's just say that that's one of the reasons why I personally don't like playing it that much as a heavy player, because the sniper, it's so big. Like the sniper can be on one side of the map and not be called at all, and then you die. But yeah, for mids at least, the oil can one is the scariest.
So I recall you playing K and D last time this was played.
I played this map against K and D twice.
Right?
Yeah, I've played this map against K and D twice, so that was always fun.
What exactly, like, well, how exactly did they play? Like, you know, I know they struggled to beat you guys for a brief moment, and then they managed to get it together. Yeah. What did they start doing differently? What did you notice in their play style that kind of allowed them to have a lot of dominance on this map?
Well, the biggest thing, like with any Koth map, is if you start trading frags when you have the point, or if you start getting like 2-for-1 or like 3-for-1 frags when you have the point, then it doesn't actually matter if you're dying, because. And if especially in the location that you're doing it. So the biggest thing that they started doing is as soon as they would get like 4 or 5 of us down, they would immediately walk forward and take our lobby. And then they would start picking off anybody that was dumb enough to start walking into our lobby and stuff. And then from there, like, we couldn't get any cap time, and we kept losing out on like 3v1s or 2v1s. So we were always losing 3 to just like 1 or 2 people. And that just made it so we could never cap. Before that, what they were doing was they were playing it pretty standard, which is they would be hugging the road here and like hanging around their house and stuff. And they would just use Uber on their scout, because it's a huge point to Uber across. You really need to make sure your scout is in the Uber to get across, 4-star medic, or kill somebody in their Uber while we're trying to retreat. And it's basically, it plays very similarly with regards to like team play as all the other maps that are King of the Hill, where you have like aggressive Ubers that you got to keep track of really well. Otherwise you can get caught out by them, even though it's a kind of a large map like Lakeside. and that could screw you over. And then the second biggest thing is that Candy's flank wasn't as aggressive as a lot of other flanks, but a lot of other flanks are very aggressive on this map, and this map is very good for flank aggression because you have the health packs in each of the jams. And since the map is so big, if your combo is playing in like the standard spot, which is usually like around road and on this fence here, the enemy flank can get through the jam and behind like in less than 3 seconds and can bomb you from behind, and while being full health still, because there's still a pack right there. And so if a team is very coordinated with that and getting their flank behind while their combo pushes into you, you pretty much lose a lot. And that's how we would wipe 4 or 5 people, is through like a soldier, not necessarily bombing, but just spamming from our own oil can behind point, or like on the road here, or in jam. And then the sniper does his thing. Also, if the sniper gets in jam, then you're pretty much screwed. And yeah, that was what K&D was doing, at least. A lot of other teams, they would send their pyro and engineer and scout and soldier through the jam and wrap all the way behind. So like they would send their pyro through our spawn into our lobby. Their scout would double jump, triple jump before the atomizer was nerfed to get up onto our bats. And the soldier would bomb our roof and stuff. And it's just generally a very flank happy map.
So that being said, would you say that this map will favor a very flank-heavy playstyle, or maybe a playstyle that tends to center around deathballing and making sure nothing gets to your pick class or to your combo classes?
I would say it much favors flank-heavy, because even if you deathball on this map, you're just going to get instantly surrounded, because you're going to be leaving your both of the jams pretty much wide open. And in addition, the sniper, like, this is like Lakeside, where only like the very, very, very top tier snipers can afford to play with their combo, because since this map has like a pretty wide open point and it's on like a pretty big high ground, the sniper has to be playing kind of aggressive with a buff to be playing on the point, and is going to be getting spammed constantly against like moving targets that are spamming them. So most of the time snipers are going to be playing further back, like up by the fence, up on bats, or up on the can alone. And when that happens, that's just a recipe for your sniper to get killed by flank members going behind all the time. And if your flank is not with your sniper protecting or watching those flanks and deathballing with you guys, you're just going to get wrapped from 3 angles while you're trying to walk in or you're trying to leave, and you'll just all die.
So in order to prevent that deathing, or dying rather, dying, oh, my bad. Where would you say is like the most safe place for combos to hold relative to their flanks? Because I know that flanks like to be aggressive on this map. They usually are the ones that are the big playmakers on this map.
Yeah.
So is there any specific area, maybe in the jams, that like a combo should usually tend to anchor themselves, or think they should be more flexible and rotating and everything?
Yeah, so like if for example, you're trying to regain control of the point after like losing a big team fight or whatever, one of the safest things to do is to go out your can side up in here, because a lot of the time there'll be 1 or 2 flank members that are playing around here trying to scout for your position. And if you just push with like 7 or 8 people out through this one door and try to catch this flank player out, that's usually a very free, easy pick, and it'll give you some positioning that's a little bit safer than, for example, coming out the shutter and having a soldier and like a sniper looking down at you. Whereas this, if you're coming out through the right side here, the only real way that a sniper would be shooting you is if they were like very far forward on the left, which would be pretty easy to call with your own sniper, and like a soldier and scout up here, which you can just easily spam out with a demo man. So that's definitely one of the safest ways to at least aggress on the point. When you're holding the point, you just need to make sure that you always have tabs on where their flank is holding, because like pretty common ones be playing around this dead tree and on this road here. So like your demo man will be playing here, because this has only about really 1 sniper sight line that's common, which is the one from bats above the shutter there, and then an aggressive sniper peek on the point, but you should be spamming that, so that's not going to be a big of an issue. And then like your heavy and med could play on the fence. The heavy watches through the jam to make sure nothing just walks at you, and then you can have like your engineer or like pyro watching the side here to make sure that everything's okay there, or they can be walking across through the other jam. to make sure that they don't get wrapped behind. The big thing is, as soon as you see like 2 players going into whichever opposite side's jam you're at, so like if we're holding this red fence here, and you see a scout and a engineer walk into blue jam, you have to send somebody to deal with it, or you have to walk at them. Because once they get behind, I would say it's pretty much going to be close to curtains for most teams.
I also wanted to mention that we kind of kept mentioning flank offhandedly without really specifying a few classes. I know that soldier is definitely is always going to be like the solid, like definitive flank class member, but I know that recently, due to the pyro update and also just due to the way the meta has evolved in Highlander, scouts tend to play closer to a combo now more frequently than they do with flank. And now that pyro is capable of doing like insane amounts of damage, he'll tend to go for more flank plays. So would you say that in this case, on this map in particular, you'd want to see your pyro playing more flank heavy, or would you want to stick to the traditional scout, soldier, engineer flank?
It really depends on your pyro's playstyle. A lot of pyros aren't comfortable playing more flank aggressive, and that's like totally fine. You just like, the biggest thing is, since pyro's like DM is crazy, is like they have to be more aggressive with the combo. Their sole job shouldn't just be spy checking and air blasting, waiting for a bomber or something like that. They need to be like walking forward and doing damage. It's very common though to the couple of times I've played this with the Jungle Inferno update, I've seen pyros roam through the jams very often, and it is very successful. And pretty much nothing's really changed. It's okay for a scout to go through the jams, like if it's like an off-mover push and you're not really expected to be doing that much, you can very easily come in here and just escort and then rotate back to your team for heals very quickly. But like a pyro soldier alone through jam is very strong. But that being said, a pyro scout walking across point is also very strong. So it really depends on your own team's playstyle. My team, for example, we have Hard-Ass Johnny as our pyro, and he plays very combo-centric. But now with the new update, he plays very aggro combo-centric, so he'll frequently be walking forward to just kill 2 or 3 people that are slightly overextended on the point. And it's very helpful for me as a heavy player, because then I don't have to speak a sniper sideline. He can do it instead, and he's faster, so he won't get shot. So yeah, it depends on the team, but yes, pyro through flank, very good. Especially on this map.
Another thing I also wanted to point out is that generally you'll see combos holding very close to one another on this map.
Yeah.
The map itself is very big, but as far as having point presence goes, it's a very tight area of combat that usually goes down. That's why I personally would also like to recommend having a pyro to just like put heavy pressure on their combo. And honestly, now that I think about it, it kind of does depend on what's hurting your team more. If their flank is a big issue, like their soldier is getting in too much into your jam, then it would be wiser to have a pyro play there more frequently. Whereas if there was a lot of pressure on your combo, you'd want to have your pyro play closer there just to deal with whatever pressure is being put on them.
Yeah, exactly. And like a good example of that is if you're doing the thing like what I was talking about earlier, where you're trying to re-push point after losing it from the can side, a lot of the time a team will be playing on road here and will be sitting around the fence looking for you and stuff. So you basically, before you guys have even realized you're both next to each other, you'll probably have like your demo man already in the jam, and like your pyro in the jam with the demo man if you're playing a combo-centric pyro, while the heavy and demo man on the other team are literally like just 5 steps away over here, but none of you are doing damage to each other. So when that kind of stuff happens, having a pyro very close by to like instantly shred a demo man that just might just be like even right here and your pyro's pushing out of the jam is super, super strong. And it's one of the reasons why this map is like really weird to re-push, because that stuff happens all the time, even in Platinum. Like when you have a full-time spy that should be looking for it, like their team can just rotate to this fence for like a split second, and then you're also pushing it, and then it's just like a random DM fight that you hope you win to keep control of the one spot you're in.
All right, so I'm glad we're talking about class specifics here. I feel like to a lot of people it's really unclear what exactly their particular class should be doing when these Highlander guides are given, because people are very general and they don't really go into too much detail. So with that being said, this is an engineer-centric channel, and
All right. Well, I'll keep it.
I know that
enough about pyro.
Yeah, enough about pyro. He does a lot of damage. That's pretty much all you need to know.
Yeah, pyro's great, but engineer's great too. So like, okay, so let's talk again about repushing from right side can as engineer. So if your team is pushing 7 or 8 people or out through the right side here with heals to try to catch the other team off, the other flank off guard, or maybe even their combo. What your engineer, what you want to do as an engineer is probably not go with them. They're already going to have people spy checking. They're already going to have a lot of people trying to be taking heals. So like really, but you still want to be kind of close, because if you were to walk out all the way to the left here all by yourself, odds are there's going to be a scout or a soldier over there that'll just take a 1v1 with, and that's not something you ever want to do ever. So a good thing to do is to set up like around shutter and stuff, then push out through shutter with like a mini like plop down around here, just to watch this left side so nothing will just bot through your own valley here and stop them doing that. Or you can, if you want to be extra safe, you can put it on the high ground here to do that kind of stuff.
Wrangled mini on bats, as seen in other maps, is a very strong, very annoying thing to deal with.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially as a hit scan class.
Yeah, and then like if your team decides to go out shutter, if for repushing, then you just do like the opposite. I would say you would instead go oil can side. You can plop a mini down right next to the oil can. This is as long as a sniper isn't in the sight lane, this is a really hard mini to get rid of if you're a flank player, which is usually the player that's going to be trying to shut it down, because it locks out this entire shutter for your own team's jam, and it can stop people over aggressing on the point at the same time. So that one's pretty hard to deal with, or like even further up here if you're feeling cocky.
This is also one of those maps where you can't really afford to play very aggressive as NG.
Yeah.
By that I mean you can't really initiate fights as well as you could on a map like Asheville or on Product. Here you kind of have to wait for your team to walk in, because as we mentioned earlier, a lot of the combat actually takes place in enclosed areas where NG isn't always super great if he doesn't get set up fast enough, and he's also pretty squishy. So definitely let your demo and your soldier and your pyro create openings for you to walk in and DM things and shoot them with your mini.
And another thing too, if your team is being aggressive, like say that they're all over on the left side here, they got their heavy on the fence, the other heavies on can, the double man are shooting each other at the point. It's because this map is so big, and you can be a flank player here, and you don't really want to be taking heals because our demo man, pyro, and heavy, for example, are taking heals fighting the other team. A super easy and quick thing to do is you just run through the opposite side's jam here. You just plop down a mini and you wrangle it at people that are just incidentally standing on the point, or like are sitting behind there. And these players are always going to be hurt if they're playing on this side while a team fight is happening. And you can pretty easily do like 200 damage to players that are trying to run from the big battle over here, and you're also locking down this entire area of the map for free. That's one of the most annoying things for me as a heavy player, especially, is when I'm like standing trying to push this road here, or I'm pushing on these stairs and there's a wrangled mini sitting on right behind our Lego, and it's just shooting me constantly.
So back to like team fights in general. So let's say you're kind of getting squished on. You know, this is a map where if you really don't know what you're doing, you'll find yourself getting spawn camped pretty easily. A lot of players will tend to stagger. What do you think is usually the best course of action to prevent that? Like if a lot of players start getting in for free, you'll notice that your medic starts dying a lot, or that your pick classes keep overextending, or that your demo is just dying to whatever. What would you say in order for a team to kind of regather themselves? I know that you mentioned coming up to can here is a smart idea, but generally, how exactly should a team be playing?
Oh yeah, so if you just like lost 2 or 3 power classes, and a power class in this sense is going to be like sniper, demo, medic, I would say. Those are like the big 3 in Highlander that you want to be extra wary of, making sure they're alive. Like without one of them you can definitely do stuff, but if you're down like a demo man and a sniper, then there's not really that much you can do unless your demo man and your sniper killed 5 of the other team. But this is like you're losing like a 9v6 now instead of a 9v9. The easiest thing to do is, depending on where you're playing is just back up with your medic, especially if you're an engineer. An engineer backing up with a medic is like a super strong thing because you can put a mini down right as you're leaving, and they'll either have to stop to shoot the mini or they can ignore the mini and get killed by the mini as it finishes building. Like you don't, especially on this map with the way that the flanks work, if you're down 2 of those power classes, the enemy team's flank is already going to be coming through either of the jams or across the other side of the point to start cleaning up whatever's left of your team. So the important thing first is to realize like, hey, we are down 2 people. We should have either killed like 4 of them or a couple of them, or we should be leaving. Once you guys have realized that it's time to leave, the easiest thing to do is just to back up immediately from wherever you are. So if you're playing on the can, just have your medic back up through the spawn alleyway here.
Yeah, this does seem to be the safest escape right now that I think about it.
That's basically the safest. You don't want to be crossing to go into shutter. Sure, if you're an engineer, you'll probably have like a dispenser sitting underneath the house, or you'll have your teleporter in the shutter, which is a very common shutter spot to put. But like backing up that way, you're going to be walking through a couple of sightlines that the sniper is going to be aggressively peeking most likely, and their flank is definitely already going to be like walking onto the rock, or is going to be on the house to shoot you as you try to leave, if you're playing can side. If you're playing on the road side, then it's kind of like you kind of can get really boned really fast. The big thing about playing road side is if flankers get behind through your jam, you don't have anybody immediately countering them, then they're going to be able to cut off your avenue of escape that is through the shutter pretty much, because you never want to run up this ramp here, because this ramp behind the Lego is like one of the biggest sniper sight lines. It's not something you ever want to be running up as a fleeing combo player or any player really. So if you're doing here, one thing you can, if you're playing road and you're losing your fight, one thing you can do is you can just like try to do like a death ball sack, which is you just walk across point with everything you got and hope that you win numbers down fight, which sometimes work. That can catch teams off guard, but the best thing to do by far is to realize you're losing the fight fast. Have people calling out, hey, I died on the flank, or hey, there's 2 things on jam, the blue jam, they're going to be flanking you guys in like 5 seconds, and just back out your shutter before that even happens. Big thing is you want to make sure that your med lives. Everybody else can die, but if their odds are they're going to have the point, so if everybody else dies and your med lives, you'll probably at least have some Uber to go off of, but if your med dies, then you're just going to be in a bad cycle of death, and you'll never get the point ever again.
Yeah, so honestly, now that we're talking about it a lot, this does seem like a rather straightforward King of the Hill map as far as gameplay goes. You know, back up safely when you're down players, push back in when you have ad, or like when you have more picks. How would you say Ubers in general? Let's say we trade and like our Ubers are even. Let's say like maybe like each team trades a few picks, or maybe like a couple important classes die. How should the winning team in that Uber trade, or how should either team really play that effectively so that they can regain ground? Like let's say you're pushing in with an Uber trade.
Equal Ubers. It really comes down to like how ballsy you're feeling with how late your pop is, because like I said, this map is so big. If the enemy team is playing on their road and you're playing on your road and going to be Ubering across from there, that's like a solid like 5 seconds of wasted Uber that your scout's going to be using to at least get to the enemy demo man to even try to force. So like, I think the big thing with an Uber trade is like the winning team is the team most of the time that A, pops second, and B, doesn't lose anybody in their Uber. So it's similar to like other costs, but like there's a slight caveat of if you're Ubering across the point and you Uber first, your Uber can still come out much better if your flank shuts down the enemy flanks much harder. So like if you're sending your scout demo Uber across the point, road to roadside, and your flank pushes through the red jam with like with your soldier and engineer, your engineer sets up a mini to hold that down, your soldier's playing on the roof post Uber, and the enemy team's Uber is still stuffed in road, they're not at all controlling the point, I would say that is a pretty good Uber win, because you're going to be destroying them post Uber, provided none of you have died, you will be able to shut down any flankers from their Uber if they were trying to shut you guys down post Uber. Like if they were going to try to kill you on point after the Uber, they would be closed off from at least going the red jam. And you would have a much easier time of capping the point afterwards because the enemy's Uber is confined to basically just around this rock here. That being said, though, if the enemy, this map can be kind of strange for Ubers because sometimes you can see like Ubers coming out through the jams, and so when that happens, it's like I feel like it's sort of all bets are off because if let's say again, like there's a team playing on the fence here, the defending team's playing their fence, and you're pushing through your jam to attack at them. Your Uber is either going to get immediately stuffed by a pyro that's just playing this little corner right here, or you're going to be able to absolutely pound everything that's behind their Uber and like win. So it sort of feels like a 50-50 coin grab in terms of like how the Uber actually goes. And it's a very risky thing. And of course, all of this, you can't forget, there's the sniper. Ideally, you want somebody to at least be distracting the sniper during all of this, but this is just like all things equal. Like the snipers are just shooting each other for no reason instead of the unubered players that are trying to be aggressive.
All right. Do you think there's any other miscellaneous information you want to tell our viewers? Anything like in particular you think is important that we didn't really touch on earlier about this map specifically? Other than the fact that it's a pretty mediocre map overall.
I mean, yeah, I'd say like a lot of people might make this map out to be like not as sniper friendly as a map like Product or Lakeside, but it's really sniper friendly in actuality. Like, yeah, the sniper plays alone like they do on Lakeside, but like a really smart sniper will be able to will play the surrounding areas really well and make sure that both the flankers are shut down as well as the combo. So like before pushing, this goes for really any Highlander like scenario at all, but like make sure you know where the sniper is and like call the sniper if they kill you, because a sniper that rotates quickly and efficiently on this map is almost impossible to actually shut down. Apart from that, it's kind of hard to do sack waves on this map because it's so big. You can get really good pressure on, like you can actually like walk 4 or 5 people of your team with no heals across the point without getting them to force, and like you can even cap the point. But since like the map is so big and the meta can just kite further and further back into the shutter, you can just get destroyed anyway. So you have to be really careful with your sack waves. Make sure that you guys are coordinating those really well. And yeah, that's kind of it. What about you, Wax?
I don't really have much to say either. I think that while this map does deservedly receives a lot of flack, there are definitely very many workarounds, solid workarounds to its flaws. So I feel like people do complain about it, and definitely a lot more than they really should. I don't think it's a bad map per se, but at the same time, its flaws are very they're a lot more outlined, mainly due to its design. A lot of the problems with it are they're pretty similar to that of like Asheville, in my opinion. Or like,
yeah, the flank gets behind really easily, and then like you have 2 options at that point. You either die to their flank or you kill everybody that isn't their flank. And,
yeah, but since the rest of the map is so small on Asheville, it really isn't.
It's much easier to do.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to do, and it can be less of an issue, I suppose, on that map. But overall, I just play this map like you would any other map. If anything, play it like Asheville. Just go off your picks well, make sure their flank isn't getting behind, and you should be good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot for tuning in, people of the stream, and then also people who watch the video on YouTube when it goes up later.
Thanks, friends.
Yeah, so we'll see you around. Tune in for next time.